everyone, my name is Doc. Welcome back to the THC Launchpad. Today we will be talking about event marketing. Events are close to my heart because when the Hood Collective started, events were the first kind of niche in the industry that we really got a hold of. And when we started back in 2016, 2017, events were huge in Oregon and they were happening all the time. There's always events coming up. There are big events, small events, events all over the state. A lot of business was going down at events. Brands were showing up. There's big sponsorships. And so it was these event companies especially that had a lot of money to spend. And so when the pandemic hit, 90% of our business was events. And meaning that event companies or people going to events were hiring us to do their marketing, their social media, their photography, their video. And that was the bulk of our business. And then COVID happened and that was wiped out overnight. And the reality is, in the post-COVID world, events there aren't as many of them. In the more mature states, it's hard to justify having a lot of events because, there isn't a lot of cash, laying around for these businesses to invest in as sponsors, to table, even just the interest in the state amongst the people to just come and buy tickets. And so there's been a shrinkage in the number of events in most states, and in the newer states there is more events happening, and it is pretty exciting there still, but it's certainly not at the scale it was before. And so as we talk about event marketing, one of the first questions you're going to ask is it worth it? Is the ROI going to be worth it? And the number one thing that's going to go into that is, are there a lot of events to invest in? And if you're looking at the landscape and you're like, well, I'd like to go to MJ BizCon, once a year, and maybe in my state there's that one big event that happens once or twice a year, and that's it, then it's probably not worth the investment. Because I'm going to start with, this is the main thing you need to realize about event marketing. If you're going to do it right. And we've talked about it before about every aspect of your brand. It's especially true of event marketing because there's a big investment that goes into it, not just the events themselves and how much it costs to table or to sponsor, but once you pay to attend the event, you're going to need to make sure you have invested in the banners, in the table covers, in the swag, in the handouts, in the video, in all the things that you're going to have in your booth. You're going to need that. You're going to need to pay for the time of the people there, and sometimes it's just going to be your employees, but even if you're not paying them extra, you're paying for them in a different way because you're paying them and they're not being productive in the other ways they're normally productive, because they're at this event, and so it's a lot more expensive than you might just think when you're like, oh, it's X amount to attend this event. I can afford that. But if you're booking a table at an event and then it's you and maybe you and your partner or you and your employee or a couple of your employees, and here's my business card and maybe here's a flyer and here's kind of a sign that I made myself. Yeah, you could afford to be there, but now you're sitting next to you're surrounded by all these people that invested thousands of dollars in their signage and their banners and their swag and all of that in the booth furniture. And you're there with your little small table in the corner of the event space, you can see that, oh yeah, I could afford it, but actually I've just wasted my money because I'm not able to compete with these other people that are laying out a much larger amount and have invested a lot more in their presence. And so that's where, again, you have to assess what is your budget? What can you afford? What is your expectation? And so if you're going to go and you're going to do it right, you need to invest in all of those elements, from the sign to the handouts, the swag, all those things I already mentioned. And it's going to cost a lot. And if you're just doing it for that one event, it's probably going to be a waste of money. It's going to be hard to get a good ROI on just the one event, when you've just invested so much money in creating that presence. And so before you start to do events, you need to think of it as like, okay, I need to do this regularly as much as possible. And so it's a kind of an all or nothing thing. Because if it's just a once in a while thing, it's either going to be a high investment, to create all the things we talked about, as opposed to if you're doing it regularly and then, you made that investment once and then you're just paying the costs of that specific event, or re-upping the swag, and, you don't have to design it all again, and you're doing it frequently, then it's a whole different ballgame. So who are events correct for? Who should be going to events? Well, obviously, if you are a B2B business, you're going to be much more interested in going to events and interacting with, going to a space where many of your target clients are going to be all in one location, as opposed to driving or cold calling all over the state, trying to get a meeting, trying to get a face-to-face, trying to get an invitation into their facility. Being in that event space with all of your target customers, not all, but many of your target customers, is a great thing. And if you know that they're spending the money on the events, that probably means they have money to spend on other services. And so it's a way to like, oh, I have not only a big chunk of my target customers, but my most likely target customers all in one place. And so for B2B companies, it's, I'm not going to say a no-brainer because all those other factors still come into play, but it's much more likely that it's going to be a good investment. If you are a brand, that is wanting to gain more traction with the general public, then you're going to be wanting to look at a very different type of event. You're going to be wanting to look at maybe not even cannabis-specific events. Maybe it's cannabis-specific events for the public. Hemp fests, summer fairs, like the kinds of events that are built around cannabis, but the target audience is now the public. Sponsoring that kind of event, tabling that kind of event, especially in a space, in a state that allows you to give out free samples or to sell from your, from your table, then it makes a lot of sense if you're making that kind of investment as a brand. But if you're doing that, again, you can't be thinking of it as a one-off. It has to be one aspect of your fuller brand picture of how you're going about strategizing how you're reaching your target audience. And so if you are in a situation where you're struggling to get clients, you're struggling to get dispensaries to purchase your product, and you're like, maybe I'll try this event and hope for the best. If you're going into an event hoping for the best, I would caution against it. But another type of event marketing that isn't the same as the big industry trade shows or the big public festivals, is pop-ups or vendor days. This is event marketing on a much smaller scale, almost a one-on-one scale. It's where you arrange with the dispensary, hey, I'm going to come in on this date. I'll be there for 6 hours. I'll be giving out samples. I'll be giving out swag. I'll be, talking to your customers about our product. Maybe we can run a sale in conjunction while we're there. You all know what I'm talking about. Some people, I've heard, some states call them pop-ups, some states call them vendor days. I'm sure there's other names, but this is a great way to not only get face time with your potential customers, but also to build relationships with your dispensaries, who's really, that's who your customer is. And so these pop-ups are a great idea, and it's something that's very repeatable, and then the investment is not as large as it is for the bigger events, but you do need that banner, the booth, the table cover, whatever it is. You want it to look professional, you want it to look good, you want it to be exciting, and then the swag. Because if you're going for a vendor day, swag is going to be a huge part of it, and so you want to have cool swag that you can give out and just get people excited. And so again, it's repeatability and doing it often enough where the investment makes a lot of sense, and so you want to make sure that, like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to make the investment up front, and then we're going to have a schedule, and we're going to be doing once a week, we're going to be doing twice a week, we're going to make sure that we hit every store, you know, that we can in this 6-month period, and then we'll just start over and do it all again. You know, and so you have that mentality of doing it over and over, and then it becomes very effective for you. Because again, if you're just going to do it once or twice because, oh, this dispensary asked, can you do it? And you're like, oh, okay, but you don't have any other plans to do it otherwise, why bother? You know, because once or twice isn't going to do it. But once you do it more and more, you'll learn what works, what doesn't. You'll get better at interacting. You'll get better at, you know, creating, you know, excitement around it with the dispensary. Maybe, oh, let's partner with this, you know, a local food truck. We'll be giving away food, whatever it is. You'll just get better at it. And so it's, again, about the repeatability. And so I've probably been talking too much about this. The point is, if you're going to do it right. Make the initial investment up front to make sure everything is super professional. Make sure your brand is, you know, really strong before you start showing up at events with a crappy logo or crappy swag. Make sure you do it right, and then just have a plan and keep doing it. And that's the way you can be effective with event marketing. And so, yeah, the last thing is just, I think event marketing is a great idea when you do it right. And so you should really be considering it if it's right for your business. And so if you have any questions about that, feel free to hit me up. You can find my information on the website. And again, I appreciate you all taking the time to watch this video. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I really appreciate you all tuning in, and I will see you all next time.